Hey up everyone, something new is on its way. That was the headline that accompanied the original KTM spy shots and the announcement. But will we really get something new? There have been lots of rumours floating around about what's coming from KTM. Some snippets newer than others, and after doing some digging I thought I'd weigh in with some opinions. First though, let me say, I'm not a KTM basher. I think they make some great bike, but there are some things about the direction the company seems to be going in that I'm not so happy about. For a little background, for anyone who doesn't know, in the 90s KTM was bought out by Piera Mobility. Then, in 2007, Bajaj, Indian motorcycles manufacturer, bought a 15% stake in the company. This stake was gradually increased until in 2021 they owned 48% of the company. Then, there was a further restructuring, which led to Bajaj owning 49.9% of the parent company, Piera Mobility. So, right now, they own almost 50% of KTM, but also 50% of the parent company that runs KTM. That gives them a very significant say in internal decisions. There are ongoing talks about manufacturing KTMs in the Bajaj factory in India, and then there is the added complication of the deal signed in 2017 with CF Moto. Various KTM models are now made entirely in China by CF Moto, and many of the other engines are also manufactured there. But the tariffs preventing them from being exported from China to India are significant. This is one of the reasons Bajaj Group are fighting for the rights to build KTM motorcycles in India, as it would significantly lower the retail price without affecting profits. The latest complication now sees KTM take on distribution of CF Moto products in various countries including the UK and Ireland. And then we get the news that in addition to adding Husqvarna and Gas to their portfolio, KTM are to buy a 25% stake in MV Agusta too. So, suffice to say that the present power structure of the company is a little complicated and very corporate. Now that in itself isn't always a bad thing, but it does mean that there are a lot of people with different agendas all trying to agree on the next move. That inevitably leads to delays in decision-making and changes in focus. They seem to be following the same model as the Volkswagen Audi group have done in the car industry, buying up other existing brands to flood the market with what are predominantly the same cars with different badges and styling. This was very evident with the release of the Norden 901. Husqvarna are and always have been an off-road focused company, but instead of reinforcing that brand identity with the Norden, they used a much more road-focused suspension and running gear setup on the Norden 901 than they had on the 890 Adventure. Why? I have no idea, to be honest. It makes no sense to me at all. So, we come to the news and rumours. There has been talk of a 490 Adventure for a long time now. It was first mentioned in 2019, but now we hear direct from the CEO that the whole 490 platform has been axed because it was considered not financially viable. Yet at the same time, there is still news and pictures of a 490 Duke that is already being built. In the words of CEO Stefan Piera, talking to Autocar India, KTM were developing an all-new 490cc platform, but the 490 platform has been shelved permanently. Instead, the company plans to roll out a 690 platform based on the same 790 platform already being made by CF Moto. It will be built by CF Moto in China and is aimed at stealing market shares from Yamaha's MT-07 and Kawasaki's Z650 and the Triumph Trident. So all road-going motorcycles. Now, unless Bajaj can sign a deal to manufacture them in the newly built factory in India for the Indian market, the import tariffs would simply make them uncompetitive there. This is a significant market to just throw away, and with Bajaj having such a large shareholding, I'm sure that we will see a deal of some sort signed soon. So whatever happens, soon we are likely to have KTMs made in both China and India. What will that mean for the Austrian factory that is already only focusing on the race team bikes and the Super Adventure? And what will it mean for prices, reliability, and licensed copies? Will we have a Bajaj 790 Adventure as well as the CF Moto MT-800? Now, being honest, I do find all of this a little confusing. And remember, This is the same CEO that announced that there would be a 490 in the first place. KTM have already wheeled out a 490 Duke parallel twin at various shows. They already have a 450 single engine used in the rally bike, the Supermotos, and then there's the 500cc engine that could be used as a base unit too. There are also the various frames from the 390 Adventure chassis up to the rally chassis, so they have no need for a completely fresh start. Developing a new 450-490 single could be as simple as casting a bigger sump for the 500 engine and using more standard components in the 450 rally engine, then possibly detuning them slightly and increasing oil flow to increase service intervals, then simply adding longer gear ratios. For the chassis, the 390 Adventure chassis has already proven its worth and would only need some minor bracing to increase its strength for a 490 single. So, from an R&D perspective, and with regard to new tooling, it shouldn't actually cost that much in investment terms. So why shelve the project completely? Well, one reason may be that the 490 twin-cylinder engine that was originally to be developed and built by Bajaj has been delayed because the factory in Pune, India, still hasn't actually been finished. It's this same factory that will theoretically be building the all-new Indian-built Triumphs too. At the same time as all this is happening, we get the announcement of a cheaper 790 Adventure being launched again. This will be relaunched alongside the 890 Adventure, and it will be made in China by CF Moto and sold alongside the KTM 890 Adventure and the CF Moto MT800. The only differences really will be the power, the levels of tech attached, and the quality of the cycle parts. Then comes yet another announcement that a 690cc parallel twin will also be launched. When that will happen we don't know yet, but if rumours are to be believed, it will simply be a sleeved-down version of the 790 engine, producing around 70 horsepower in the same chassis. That's less power than a 650 V-Strom. Now remember, every company out there is there to make money, and in the motorcycle industry, the bigger the engine, the bigger the price. Do bear that in mind. Sleeving an engine down and slotting it into an existing frame with cheaper cycle parts will cost almost nothing in R&D and tooling costs after all. Ask yourself this: as a company, do I risk spending a lot of money to develop a new smaller capacity motorcycle, knowing the R&D will take time and money, and also being aware that the motorcycle could only achieve a smaller final asking price? Or do I just sleeve down and cheapen the existing 790, 890 platform, knowing that there are almost no R&D costs to recoup, and that it will sell for more to the masses simply because it is a bigger capacity motorcycle than the 490 would have been? If they then decide to build a Husqvarna and gas version, then we could easily end up with at least 5 or maybe even up to 9 bikes built around the same platform. Maybe we will even get an MV Agusta version to make that 10. And that's without even mentioning the CF Moto MT800. So it seems we could easily end up with a choice of about 7 bikes, which on the one hand sounds great, but when in reality they are such similar bikes built around the same platforms, does that really equal genuine choice? I know I would rather have a choice of just 3 very different bikes than 7 that are almost identical. This brings us to the motorcycle we won't get, even though customers have been crying out for something like it for a long time now. As we already have a 390 single and a 790 twin, why were KTM thinking about a 490 in the first place? The 490cc bike would likely be more powerful than the European A2 licence regs, so it would need to be restricted. That would make it barely more powerful than the 390, so why would people spend more on a 490? I think most wouldn't. A 490 single would be a little better on the road, but would offer very few advantages over the 390, and a 490 twin would have a similar problem and cost much more. In the same way, a 690, built around the same platform as the 890, will be almost the same weight, if not actually a little heavier. So why buy it rather than a 790 or an 890 unless you were simply buying on price? What I personally would really like to have seen, and what would make me think KTM were actually listening to the customers, would be a 590cc parallel twin in an all-new lightweight package. The chassis could be smaller and lighter than the 890, and a new smaller engine, not a sleeved down 890, could be lighter too. That way, we should end up with a twin-cylinder bike closer to 175 kilos with about 70 horsepower. A more powerful and genuinely off-road focused equivalent to the Honda CB500X, or a lighter version of the Aprilia Touareg. Now, that would be a bike I would seriously consider looking at. It would be much more capable on highways than any single-cylinder bike, and much more capable off-road than the heavier 890 Adventure. Alas, because of the research and development costs associated with the development of a completely new engine and chassis, this is probably the least likely motorcycle we would see built by KTM. The cost-to-reward figures just don't stack up for a corporate giant when compared to the profit they can make from a sleeved-down 690cc twin built around the existing chassis of the 890 Adventure. This cost-saving focus isn't just in evidence here either. The new 690R, despite being heavier and more expensive, has few real improvements over the old model. Power is up marginally, and you get a measly third of a gallon of extra fuel to quench your extra thirst. It has an even worse seat than it used to have that feels shockingly cheap, and the once elegant dash has been replaced by the cheapest, tackiest dash from a basic dirt bike. Is that really what you want to see from a flagship motorcycle? The quick shifter, which few people actually wanted, and the multiple traction control modes are lifted straight off the adventure bikes, so will have cost very little to adapt. But again, ask yourself, did any 690R owners really want traction control? Until there is any more real news, I will wait and watch to see the developments of any new motorcycles within this giant corporate monster. I just hope in the meantime that another manufacturer steps in to fill the gap in that market. Who do you think that might be? What would be the adventure bike that you really want to see built? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon below to make sure you see the next videos. Ride free, everyone!